Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the purification on the fluids. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, salatu salam ala Rasul al-Kareem. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, abduka wa rasuluka nabiyil ummi, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslima. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Oh, sure, absolutely, hon. You're welcome to. Are you able to read yet, hon? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Jazakallah khair.
Like your whole arm away.
Oh, yes, absolutely, brother.
I'm always doing this,
Yes.
so I'm again to.
Oh, yes, alhamdulillah.
Go bring the
May Allah
chair.
subhanahu wa
Go
bless you.
bring this.
ربنا تقبل منا زدنا علما وحكمة وهدى اللهم آتنا نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها اللهم ارحم شيوخنا أما بعد. All the praises belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything in the world happens by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah's peace and blessings be upon His final prophet and messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We'll continue on the explanation of the school of the Hanbali school on the issues of the tahara, of the purification, and the first chapter is on the fluids. And if you look in the books of fiqh, usually they start out in the beginning on the purification, and the first chapter on the purification is on the fluids, what fluids and liquids and are allowed for the wudu and the ghusl. And you find that in the books of fiqh, they start out with that. And same thing here in the Hanbali fiqh, in the book by Ibn Qudamah and his explanation on the Umdah, he talks about the fluids, because the thing is, when a person, they do the wudu and the ghusl, they have to make sure that they use the proper liquid for it, the proper fluid for it, and these are the rulings pertaining to that. Babul Miyah, the tahara, and Miyah in Arabic, normally speaking, you say ma'an means water, and Miyah is a plural of water, means waters. But in Arabic, when they say water, when they say ma, it refers to all the different fluids and all the liquids, not just the H2O, not just the water that people that they drink, but everything that's a liquid, they call it a ma. And they say Miyah means the different types of liquids, the different types of waters. Sometimes in the Quran it says ma, which refers to just water, the rain that comes down, they use that term. But it could refer to all types of liquids and fluids. That's what Miyah means, plural of ma, plural of water. So would you like to read the first one? No, we read it loud so it can go on the thing.
Water was created purifying.
Yes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah mentions in the Quran, وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ مِنَ الْمَاءِ. Allah made all the living things from the water, and also the water is used to cleanse things and to purify things, and also for the wudu and the ghusl and other things. So that's the thing, the water, that's what people they use in purifying the things, in the water. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that to clean the things, in the water. So that's the first point that Shaykh he made, use the water to clean things. If something's dirty, then you wash it with the water. Okay, to read number 2, Noe, as I said, read it loud.
Purifies from hadath.
Yes. Okay, so what happens is a person, in order to pray the salat, they have to have the wudu. And if they break the wudu, then they have to do the wudu again in order to pray the salat. So what it does is, the term when a person, they're not in the state of wudu, they call that hadath. And they use the term hadath al-asghar, the minor defilement. And they also have a term called hadath al-akbar, which is the major defilement. And the difference is, the major defilement is when a person, they have to do the ghusl, the full bath. If the seminal fluid comes out, then they have to do the full bath, and they call that hadath al-akbar. But if a person, they break the wudu, then they call that hadath al-asghar, the minor defilement. So when a person, they use the water, to do the wudu, they cleanse themselves, so they get removed from that hadath al-asghar, from that minor defilement. That's a term that they use. And what happens is, in the wudu, people, they know this already, people, they stay in the state of wudu until they do something that breaks it. If something comes out from the 2 passageways, then that breaks the wudu, and then they become in the state of hadath al-asghar, and then they have to use the water in order to make the wudu. Okay? All right, inshallah. So let's do number 3. Nawi, you read that one?
And impurities.
One najasat. So what happens is, people, they use the water to do the wudu, that is to get out of the state of the minor defilement, and also in the books of fiqh, they call it izalat al-najasa. That means to remove the impurities, and people they use the water for that also. So, for example, on the skin or the body, if they have impurities that go on the skin or the body, then they also use the water to remove those things. Or they go in the clothing also, if there's stains and things like that go on the clothing, then also you use the water to remove those things on the clothing. So that's what this chapter is about, on the niyah, on the liquids that do that take away, that keep the person out of the minor defilements. That means that puts the person in a state of wudu, the state of ghusl, and also the things that remove the impurity, the najasa, from the different places, from the clothing and from the skin. So that's what the Shaykh said. Well, najasat, it removes the impurities.
Brother
Yes.
from Sudan,
Yes.
he just moved.
Yes.
He speaks Arabic. Sheikh
Yes.
Kalam Arabic.
No.
Marhaban.
Marhaban bika, welcome for you, brother. No, mashallah. تقرأ الرابعة هنا في عربية. Read number 4 في عربية. Yes.
فلا تحت لا أربعة هذا أربعة رقم 4 اقرأ في العربية.
لا تحسب الطهارة الماء غيره.
Yes, okay, inshallah.
هذا علشان ندف يعني أحكام المياه. هذا علشان كل ندف من مايا كل النجاسات كذا. هذه الحلقة شيخ يجي أي يوم يعني يصير مغرب العشاء ويجي هنا كل يوم كل يوم. لو أنت جلس هنا بس اسمع 3 أنت قلت أعرف لو في مشكلة أعرف عربي برضه.
Okay, فلا تحصل طهارة, that means a person, they don't reach the purity besides using the water. So the water is what makes the person, they go into purity. That's what the Shaykh said in Ibn Qudamah. So people that use the water, if things get dirty on the clothing and the other things, anything else a person they use is not going to make it pure. Like for example, let's say a person they have like orange juice or oil, if they use that, that's not going to make it pure. So that's what he says. The water is what makes things pure. That is, puts a person in the state of wudu, and also removes the impurities from the different places. So things besides that, it does not make the person pure.
هو ضرب هو ما في مشكلة. لا هنا مو في أمريكا ما في مشكلة يعني طفل رجل كذا أمشي كذا ما في مشكلة.
All right, Dowie, we'll read number 5.
When it reaches 2 tanks, it does not become impure at all.
Okay, so what happens is if you have a large amount of water, and if any impurity goes in there, then it doesn't make it impure. If a small amount of impurity goes in there. Like let's say, for example, you have a pond is filled with water, or a lake, or even an ocean. If you put a drop of impurity in it, or a cup of impurity, it doesn't mean that the whole lake is impure and the whole ocean is impure, or the whole lake is impure. And what he said here is the amount that is there that makes it negligible is if there's 2 tanks of water, and they use the term that they use is kullatain, 2 tanks, because it's the last amount of water, and if you put in a little bit of impurity in it, it's negligible. It doesn't make it impure. And they use this idea in other rulings also. They say that if there's a small amount of something, it doesn't make the whole thing impure. Like in vinegar also, for example. Say you have the vinegar, if you have a tiny amount, that doesn't make it impure. The cheese also, for example, people they use that example. In the cheese they use enzymes. The enzymes, and sometimes the enzymes is from animals and even from pig, but they say the amount is so tiny, it makes it negligible. So the same thing here, if you have the 2 tanks of water, 2 kullatain, if the impurity goes in it, it's negligible. That's what the Shaykh he said over here, when you reach that amount of kullatain. If it's less than the kullatain, then there's a different ruling that they have. So that's the cutoff point. The kullatain, the 2 tanks.
What is 2 tanks? How much?
It's coming later on. It's going to explain that. The other point, the next one. Okay, is that clear on that? إذا بلغ كلتين لا ينجس إلا Okay, do you read the next one, brother? هي رقم سادسة.
شو اسمه؟ أنت اسمك شو اسمك؟ شو اسمك؟
اسمه
حبيب الله.
أو كان جاريا لم ينجسه شيء.
Yes. Oh, jariyan is flowing. So if you have the water that's flowing, that means it's renewing all the time. So if the impurity goes in there, it doesn't become impure because it just flows away. So like for example, if you have a river, nahar, or if you have a stream, or you have some water, the water is continuously renewing, or even you have a spring, the spring comes out and the water renews it, so then it doesn't become impure. But if you have stagnant water, qarara, so it stays over there, then what happens is the impurity goes in it becomes impure. The more impurity goes in it becomes more impure. More impurity goes in it becomes more impure. And over time, as the time goes on, it becomes more and more impure. So that's a different ruling. But if you have the water that's flowing, the kind of jariyan, that means flowing, then also that takes the same ruling, that it doesn't become impure because you have the water that renews it. So like for example over here, if we go to the river, the water flows, so that water is considered to be pure, because it's consistently rejuvenating. Okay, inshallah, so read number 7, who wants to read it?
إلى ما غير لونه أو تامة أو ريحة.
Okay, so this over here that says that if you have a large amount of water, أكثر من كلتين, more than the كلتين, it doesn't become impure. لا ينجس إلا يغير, except if طعامه, the taste changes, or لونه, or the color changes, or رائحه, or the smell changes. So that's what they say. So if you have a large amount of water, some impurity goes in it, it still remains impure. But if you put so much impurity, then you look at it, the color changes, then it's considered impure. Or if you taste it, and you can taste it different, then that becomes impure. Or if you smell it, then it becomes impure for the large amount of water. But besides that, no matter how much impurity you put in it, if those things, they don't change on it, then it's still considered to be pure. And the term that they use in Arabic is sifat. Sifatul ma, that means the characteristics of water, the characteristics of the liquids, and the attributes of the liquids. They have the taste, the color, and the smell. Those are the three sifat of the liquid. So if those don't change, any one of those, they don't change, then the water is pure if it is more than the kullatain. Okay, is that clear? Okay, all right, inshallah. Read number 8.
Besides that, if it mixes with impurities, it is impure.
Yes. So if you have less than the kullatain, like if you have a cup of water, then any amount of impurity that goes in it will make it impure. That's in the Hanbali school. That's what they have. Some of the other schools, they also go by the same ruling, that the color has to change and the smell has to change and the taste has to change. But in the Hanbali school, in the madhab Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, he says if there's less than the kullatain, then any amount of impurity will make it impure. That's what he says. So that's the ruling that he goes by. So if you have, like for example, a cup of water, for example, and a drop of impurity goes in it, then that water is impure. But if you have a large amount, more than the kullatain, and you put impurity in it, it doesn't become impure unless those three characteristics change. Okay, and those three, the color, the taste, and the smell, one of those three, if it's mixed with impurities. Okay, inshallah, let's go to the next one, number 9. So over here, the Sheikh, he is from Ibn Qudamah. He's from Damascus, Syria. So he's mentioned how much is the kullatain, and he says miya wa thamaniya ratal, 108 ratals, and nowadays the ulama, they consider that to be 160 liters, 160 liters of water, the kullatain. So if it's more than 160 liters, it doesn't become impure unless the color changes, the smell changes, or the taste changes. If it's less than 160 liters and you put impurity in it, then it becomes impure. So that's what the Shaykh, he explained what the kullatain is. And in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what they used to say, the kullatain used to be the height of a man, and then they would have a container as big as the man. And they would say, call that a kullah. as that. And the two of them, they would say kullatayn. Okay, so that's what the Shaykh explained. Approximately 160 liters, and if you remember your metric system, if you go to kilograms of water and liters, 1 kilogram of water is equivalent to 1 liter of water. So the 160 liters would be 160 kilograms of water. That would be the same thing if you go by that. Okay, inshallah. So go to number 10.
وإن طبخ في الماء ما ليس مطهور.
Tahur. If you cook in the water, it's no longer purifying. Laysa tahur. Okay, one of the things that you have in the terminology, you have the term tahir. Tahir means it's pure, and tahur means purifying. Tahir means that it's not impure, a person they can utilize it, and tahur means that it purifies other things. So you would say, like for example, the orange juice is tahir because it's pure, but it's not tahuran because you can't use the orange juice to clean other things. So you have those two terms, tahir and tahur. So what the Sheikh he said, oh, you want another one? Oh, just sure, honey. Grab another one. There you go, honey. So what happens is if you have the water and you cook in it, you cook something in it, then it's no longer tahuran. You can no longer use it to clean things on it. So if you go home and you have some, you have some stew, for example, dal, for example, right?
You don't want to take a
Then
dal.
you put the water in it, you cook it, then that water is no longer tahuran, it's no longer purifying. You can't use it for wudu and ghusl. That's the point that the Shaykh made. Okay, to read the next one. Noe, read the next one there.
Likewise, what is mixed with it and its name remains, it is not purifying.
Okay, so this is a concept that they had in the old days, and even today's day, they have that concept. It's called the istihala,
11.
that is changing the
Right.
state, changing a state of one thing to another. And what happens nowadays when people, they look at things, they look at the different chemicals in it, and what happens is it goes through the process of changing one state to another. Like for example, the grape juice you have, it changes into wine, into alcohol, and the alcohol changes into vinegar. So you have changing from one state to the other. And the same thing that you have, this is what the Shaykh talked about, when you have different substances, it might change from one state to another. And the question comes up, what is the ruling for it when it changes? Does it take the ruling of the new thing, or does it take the ruling of the old thing, the old thing that it was? So the ulama, what they say is, it's the lafz, what a person they say that it is. The wording that they give of it, that's the ruling for it. Like for example, if you have wine and you make it into vinegar, then you have the new thing. What do you say it is? Do you say it's vinegar or do you say it's wine? If you say the lafz is vinegar, then it's allowed. If you say in the lafz, by the wording that it's wine, then it's haram. So that's how they used to do it. Okay,
So how do you differentiate? Vinegar is not intoxicating, right?
No, vinegar is not intoxicating, and they use that in dressings and things like that. It's no longer intoxicating. But the wine, the alcohol is intoxicating, and then what happens is, and the juice is not
How do they
intoxicating.
extract the vinegar?
They leave it out, and first it's grape juice, then they leave it out for a long time, and it turns into wine. And they leave the wine out for a long time, and it turns into vinegar.
Really?
Yes, that's how it goes. No? That's
So
how it goes.
vinegar is a part of leftover wine.
That's right. Yes, that's how they make some of the vinegar. That's
So the
correct.
alcohol evaporates and it leaves the
No, it changes the state over the course of time.
state over the course of time.
Yes, yes. Just like the juice, it changes the state.
The Prophet ﷺ used the vinegar, right?
Yeah, vinegar is completely allowed. There's nothing wrong with vinegar. Completely allowed. It's not haram at all. But it used to be wine before. All the vinegar used to be alcohol at some point in time in the past. Okay? Then it turned into vinegar. Just like the grape juice. The grape juice, when you have the wine, it used to be grape juice before. Okay? كل خمر قبلها هي كان أسير ثم بدل إلى أسير إلى خمر وكذلك الخمر بدل إلى أصل. The khamr changes into vinegar. The khula. No. Okay, inshallah. So those are the things. So what happens nowadays? You have the advanced things like, for example, of gelatin, and the question comes up: is gelatin allowed or not? So the ulama, they use this concept called the istihal, changing from one state to the other, to determine whether it's allowed or not. So the thing is, sometimes the gelatin is made from animal products, but the thing is, when you have the new thing, is it considered to be the same as the old one, or is it considered a new thing? So, like an example is like water. Water is allowed, right? Noe, H2O is allowed. But let's say that you extracted that water from pork. You take a pork and you extract the water from it. Is that allowed or not? So the ulama, they say to look at what it's called by the lafz, by the wording. If you call it pork, then it's haram. It's not allowed. But if you call it water, then it's allowed. Okay, follow that. So that's what he meant. That's what he means by that. So that's what he's saying about the liquids. You see the lafz of what it's called, and that's how you determine the ruling for it of what you say from it. That's how the ulama, they did it in the past. Because things sometimes they don't remain the same thing that they were. And istihal means it's changing from one state to another, changing from one thing to another. Just like the example of the juice, when the juice changes to the alcohol, it changes from one thing to another. So that's the concept that the Sheikh is mentioning there. All right, so you have the liquid. It might change from state to a state. So what counts is what a person, they call it with their mouth, the wording that they use for it. And that's how the ulama in the past, they came up with the rulings of the things that go through chemical decomposition and changing. Okay, let's go to the next one, number 13. Can you read that?
مستعمل الحدث سلامة أولياء.
Okay, so إذا استعملوا لرفع حدث, if a person, they use the water to make wudu, then that water is no longer tahura, no longer purifying. No, that's what the Sheikh said. Sometimes they use the term fadl ma, they use that, and the other ulama, they have different rulings from it. But let's say a person, they have, back in the old days, you didn't have the water that went down to drain right away. They used to have it in a container. So let's say a person, they do the wudu in it, and it goes back into a new container after they make the wudu in it. So the Sheikh, he said that water that you use for the wudu already, is no longer tahura. You can't use it to make a new wudu with it. Okay, is that clear? Knowing on that concept? So that's what he mentioned about that. And likewise, the ghusl, if a person, they do the ghusl, they use that water and they're able to keep the water that they did the ghusl with. He said, the Sheikh, he said that it's no longer tahuran, so that water is not allowed to do the wudu or the ghusl afterwards. All right? Okay, so drain water basically, but drain from doing wudu and the ghusl. Okay, inshallah, so let's go to number 11.
وكذلك ما
13.
13
Yes.
وإذا الشك في طهارة الماء أو غيره أو نجاسة بني على اليقين.
Okay. This is another concept in usul al-fiqh. What happens is if you have the water and then you question it, is it pure or not? So you have to go by what's bayn, what's clear, and what's doubtful, just disregard it. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have a bucket of water, right? Then you're thinking, oh, maybe they put impurity in it, so it might not be pure. So what happens is what's clear is that you have the bucket of water, which is pure, and then what's doubtful is if somebody put the impurity in it to make it impure. So you go by what's clear. Yabni ala bayn. You build on what is clear. So that water is considered to be pure, and then you can use it for the wudu and the ghusl, and you just disregard the doubt. And that's a concept in the usul al-fiqh. So yabni ala bayn wa taraka ma hiya shak. We build on what is clear and leave what is doubtful. And an example of this is like, let's say a person, they prayed the salat, they know they did the wudu, then they're doubtful, did I break my wudu afterwards or not? So in that way, you just keep, what's clear is that you made the wudu, and what's doubtful, that you break the wudu, so just disregard that you broke the wudu. So you have the wudu and prayed the salat, so your salat is correct. Right? They have that. But the other way, let's say that you broke your wudu, And then you prayed the salat, then you're questioning, did I do wudu or not afterwards? So what's clear is that you broke your wudu, and what's doubtful, did you do the wudu or not afterwards? So then you disregard that you did the wudu or not afterwards, and then you broke your wudu. So you broke your wudu and prayed the salat, that means your salat is invalid. So you have to pray the salat again. So the same concept is here, is when you have the water, you build on what's clear. If it's clear that the water is impure, then consider it to be impure, and you're doubtful whether it's pure or not, then consider it to be impure. But if it's clear that the water was pure, and then you're questioning did it become impure or not afterwards, then disregard that it became impure afterwards, and stick with that it's been pure. Okay, is that clear on that? On the usul al-fiqh? Okay, inshallah. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one, number 14. Next.
14.
Yes.
The place of impurity is hidden on the dress or other than it, then wash what one is certain of washing.
Yes. Okay, so let's say a person, they have the clothing, and they're not sure if there's a place there that became impure in the clothing, and they can't see it, it's hidden from it, then a person just wash it and just assume that it's clean. No, that's what the Shaykh said. Because that's based on the same principle as before. You go by what's clear, and the things that are questionable, you just disregard it. Let's say like you have a shirt, and then in the middle, you're questioning, is it impure or not in the middle? So the thing is, if it's impure or not in the middle, that's questionable, so that's doubtful, but what's clear is that the rest is clean, so you wash the rest of the part, and then what's doubtful, just disregard it. So that's the same concept that he's saying over here. In the clothing, if there's a place that you can't see and you're questioning whether it's impure or not, just disregard it, assume that it's pure, and wash the other parts that you can see, and then it's fine to pray in that clothing. Okay, is that clear on what he said? Okay, inshallah. All right, inshallah. Let's go to the next one, number 15. Yes. Okay, so what happens is if you have the water, the clean water, and you mix it with impurities and it becomes impure, then what happens is a person, they're not allowed to use that to do the wudu and the ghusl. Let's say if that's the only thing that they have, can they use that to do the wudu and the ghusl? And the Shaykh says, no, you can't use that. You have to do the tayammum in that case. So it's not that that you have water that's impure, and because of need and necessity you can use it because it's impure, but he says to do the tayammum. Your wajib tayammum. Do the tayammum. If you have water that's mixed with impurities and it's considered to be impure, it's not tahuran, it's not purifying, then do the tayammum. And the same thing goes if a person, they can't find the water, there's no water around, they do the tayammum. Or if the water is harmful for the person, they do the tayammum. Or if there's a small amount of water where it's not sufficient for the person to survive, then do the tayammum. So all those things are for the tayammum. And the same thing in this case here, if there is some water, some liquid, but it's impure, then you can't use the water that's not tahuran, you have to do the tayammum. That's what the Shaykh said. Okay, inshallah, is that clear on that? On that idea? No, is that clear? Okay, inshallah. Let's go to number 16.
وإن أشتبه طهور بطاهر تو زمن كل واحد منهما. If the purifying water is mixed with a pure liquid, then do ablution wudu with every one of them.
Yes. Okay, so the previous one, it mentions if the pure water was mixed with impure, ghayra tahir, then you can't use that. But he said over here, in this case, if you have pure water, you have purifying water, and that's mixed with something that's pure, then you could do the wudu and ghusl with it. Now, like for example, let's say that you have the pure water, it's tahuran, purifying, and then you have orange juice, for example. You have orange juice and the purifying water. So then you mix the two together, you can still use that for the wudu and the ghusl. That's the concept that he has. Okay, because the orange juice is considered to be pure. But let's say that you have the purifying water and you have something not just like urine, and you mix it together, then you can't use it to do the wudu and ghusl, because the urine is not pure. Okay, so that's the concept that he has here. You have the purifying water, tahuran, and mix it with something that's pure, then you can use it for the wudu and the ghusl. Okay, is that clear at that? Okay, sure. Okay, let's go to Sabat Ashur 17. Like to read it? No, we want to read number 17?
If the pure clothes are filthy, then make up the number of prayers one prayed in the impure clothes.
Yes. So what happens is the condition for the salat to be correct, that the body has to be pure.
Wait too.
You know, they have to be in a state of wudu and ghusl. The clothing has to be correct, the clothing has to be pure, and the place where a person they pray has to be pure. So the Shaykh is saying over here, if the clothing is not pure, then all those salats that a person they prayed where the clothing was not pure, then a person they should make it up. That's what the Shaykh he said on in Ibn Qudamah al-Maqdisi in the case of the Hanbali madhab. What happens is, you know, I put a star on that note here, because nowadays, the ulama nowadays, they base the ruling on a different hadith. They say that there's an authentic hadith that in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he prayed with his slippers on, hidah, he prayed with his slippers on, and then Angel Jibreel came and told him that his slippers had some filth on it. So then he took off his slippers and then he finished the rest of the salat up. And he didn't make up those rakats that he prayed in those slippers. So based on that hadith, many of the ulama nowadays, they say that if a person, they didn't realize it and they prayed in clothing that had some impurity on it, then they don't have to make up the salat. That's what they say. Some of the modern day ulama, like Ibn Uthaymeen and Ibn Baz and the other ulama. But the ruling that Ibn Qudamah, he said, based on strictly on the Hanbali school, they said you still make up those salats, you know, because the clothing you had was not pure. But all the ulama, they say that if you weren't in a state of wudu or you weren't in a state of janaba, then you have to make up the salat. That is just the clothing, they say, is the exception.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
All right, so let's go to the next one, inshallah. Taqra, inshallah.
وتغسل النجاسة وتغسل نجاسة الكلب والخنزير سبعا إحداهن بالتراب.
Yes, okay, inshallah. All right. So what happens in the hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if a kalb, a dog comes and he licks the bowl, then you have to wash it 7 times. Yaksila saba marra. And in the Hanbali school, Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, he says also, wahid marra bi turab, 1 time with the dirt. That's if a dog comes and licks on a bowl. So the same thing that they say for the clothing. If the dog comes and the saliva goes on the clothing, then you have to wash it 7 times. Saba marra, taksila saba marra, wash it 7 times, and 1 time with the dirt, it says. And nowadays, many of the ulama, they say that you can use soap or detergent instead of the dirt. That takes the same ruling. They say if the dog or he goes on the clothing, the saliva of the dog goes on the clothing or the utensil, then 7 times, 1 time with the detergent. That's what they say for the dog, if the saliva of the dog goes on there. Okay, and the rest, what's the next one? Brother, you read the next number? Number 19?
What's the number 19?
Number 19, yes.
ويجزي في سائر النجاسات 3 من خير.
Yeah, munakiyah.
مناخية.
Yes, for the rest of the things, then 3 times is how many times that you wash it. Just the saliva of the dog, they consider that to be extremely impure, so you have to wash that 7 times, and the pig also. The pig is considered to be najasa, so you wash it 7 times with those, the pig and the dog. But the other things that have the impurity, they say 3 times in the Hanbali school. Thalatha marra, you say, to make it purifying. Okay, the other impurities. Okay, so like for example, if you have your shirt,
What is mandiyah?
منديل.
Mandiyah. What is mandiyah? معناه شنو بالعربي
من he's asking what is منغية.
ما تقول في 19
ثلاثة من mandiyah. What is mandiyah?
منقي
منقية.
منقي منقي يعني يطهر الشعر ينظف الشعر.
نظف 3 مرات.
نعم صدق.
Yeah. ما عرفت من هذا العربي هذا مناخية. مناخية؟ شو؟
منقي نعم.
مناخية.
No. منقية نعم.
ما عرفت منها.
نعم صح. نعم. نعم. نعم inshallah. Okay, inshallah. So the other things, you can do it 3 times, not the 7 times. 7 times is for pig, and the saliva of the dog, you do it 7 times. And the other impurities, you do it for 3 times. Okay? That's what it is, to make it pure, to purify the things, to remove the impurity from it. So like, for example, if you have a stain on your clothes, if that stain was from a dog or a pig, you have to wash it 7 times to cleanse it. If it's from something else like urine or something like that, then you wash it 3 times. That's what they say in the Hanbali school. All right? Okay, inshallah. Okay, inshallah. Let's go to the next one, inshallah. Number 20.
If the impurity is on the earth, pouring on it once removes the impurity by dilution.
Okay, read 21 too, because that's pertinent to it.
The saying of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may Allah peace and blessings be upon him, pour on the urine of the nomad a bucket of water.
Yes. So in the time of Rasulullah, an Arabi, a nomad, came to the masjid of Prophet Muhammad, and what he did, he started urinating in the masjid. Yabul fi masjid, fi Rasulullah. So then all the Sahaba, when they saw that, they were going to go and beat the person up and harm him. So Rasulullah said, leave him alone. And then let him finish. And then when he finished, Rasulullah said, pour some water on top, a bucket of water on top of the urine. On top of the urine. And that purified the place where the person, they went to the urine. Okay, so you have the ulama, they talk about that as a dilution, because what happens is you have the bowl that's there, the urine that's there, and you have all this amount of water that goes in, it dilutes it, and then because it dilutes it, then it becomes pure, pouring it on the top. So the Shaykh, he says that the thing is, in the school of Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, he bases the things on the hadith, and he's very strict on following the sunnah of the hadith. And he mentions this because there's hadiths that talk about that, where that happened in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Arabi, he came and he urinated in the masjid, and they poured the water on the top. That's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the people to do. And do you know what happened after that? No.
الحديث ذنوبان من الماء ولا ذنوب واحد؟ صب على الأعرابي ذنوبان ولا ذنوب واحد؟ 2 ولا 1؟ ذنوبا واحد ولا 2؟
ايش سؤالك؟
الحديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم
كم رقم هذا؟
21 صب على الأعرابي ذنوبا من الماء.
No.
في الحديث ذنوبان.
ذنوبا no.
2
مرتين.
ذنوبان من الماء.
هذا مرتين.
مرتين.
بس هذا قال بس مرة واحدة.
هذا قال مرة واحدة.
Poured a bucket of water. هذا bucket يعني
No.
هذا كبير. انت هات هذا كله ايوه.
No.
ممكن هذا صغير هات هذا ترى مرتين بس هذا كبير.
لا أنت صحيح هذه ذنوبا يعني
هذا
2.
ممكن هذا كذا حتى 2 مرتين بس هذا بديء بكت كبير حتى مرة واحد بمشي كل شيء.
هو عارف يحب ما
Okay.
ممكن هذا
ذنوب واحد صغير ذنوب واحد.
Okay, the brother was saying in Arabic it says dhunuba, and when you have alif on the end it means 2 of them. So what the brother is saying, that it means 2 buckets of water, not 1 bucket of water that he poured on it. Jazakumullah khair, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Sahih, namanta sahih. Dhunuba means 2 of them, 2 buckets of water. Okay, so he poured the 2 buckets of water on the urine where the person urinated, and then diluted it, and it became pure. So that's what the Sheikh mentioned, that when you have on the ground, on the dirt, and there's some impurity on it, then you pour water on top of it, and then that makes it purified on the ground. Okay, so what happened is the A'rab, what happened after Rasulullah came, it said, Allah yarhamaka wa yarhami wa laysa hi akhir ashkhas. Say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on you and on me and nobody else. Then Rasulullah said, Dayika mahiya wasiya. That you have constricted what is wide at the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's what happened in the time of Rasulullah. And what this means is that a person, the example, they have to be nice to everybody, that come to, especially the people that come to the masjid, not yell at them, not beat them up, not be harsh to them. And even that person that came in the masjid, he urinated in the masjid. but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam still was kind to him and nice to him. So that's the thing for all of us. Be kind and nice to everybody, so attract people to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to stay on the faith, Allah willing, inshallah. Okay, inshallah, so that's one of the things that the ulama they talk about, is that when you have the impurity and then you pour the water on top of it, it dilutes it, and then it becomes pure. Okay? Alright, inshallah. Let's go to the next one, number 22. Noe? Read that one, number 22.
Is it allowed to sprinkle on the urine of a baby boy that doesn't eat food?
Yes, so this is a very interesting thing based on the hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that if the urine of a baby boy goes on the clothing, a person, they can put water on the top and that purifies it. And the baby boy has to be before the age of fisal, before the age of weaning, before he eats the solid food. So that's based on the hadith on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if a person, they have a baby girl, a jariyah, then the person, they have to wash it out. Well, they can't just put water on the top. You know, so that's the hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to sprinkle on a baby boy, on walad, and to wash on a baby girl on a bint. So that's a very interesting hadith. And some of the ulama, they talk about that, and they talk about the reasons behind it. So if a person, they want to look at the reasons, you can see what the ulama, they say. Why is it for a baby boy, the person, they just put the water on the top, sprinkle it, yarishu, and then for a baby girl, you have to wash it. But that's based on the hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what that says. Okay, inshallah, so let's go to the next one. You read number 23? Okay. Yes. So madhi, what that is when a person, when they have the sexual relation or sexual desire, it's the pre-seminal fluid, the fluid that comes out before the money, before the semen comes out. For the madhi, that's the same thing. And the sheikh, he says the same ruling is for the urine of a baby boy as it is for the madhi, that a person, they just have to sprinkle the water on top of it, of the madhi. They don't have to wash it out. Okay, that's what the same ruling is as the urine of a baby boy. That's what he said. And the sheikh, he based it on the hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, based on that. And normally speaking, the ulama, they say the madhi, it takes the same ruling as bowl, as the urine. The madhi comes out, then the person, they have to do the wudu and clean the part, because it's considered impure, just like the bowl. So that's what they say for the madhi. But if the mani comes out, the mani is the semen, is the sperm. If that comes out, then the whole ghusl is obligatory. The ghusl wajib, the mani comes out. But the madhi is the pre-seminal fluid that comes out. And sometimes people, they have that, they have the desire, and then that comes out first. Okay, is that clear? Madhi, Nawi, madhi is, okay. They have the different fluids in Arabic. They say madhi, the pre-seminal fluid, mani, which is the semen, and they say wadi, which is the one that comes afterwards. So those are the three terms that they use. Okay, inshallah. Let's go to the next one. Number 24. Who's next?
24.
Yes. Yeah.
ويافي أن يسيرا.
Yes. A small amount, an easy amount is excused. So what happens is a little bit of urine goes on your clothes, and it's excused. A little bit of madhi goes on your clothes, it's excused. And usually the ulama, they say the amount has to be less than the size of a coin, less than the size of a dinar. So if a person, they have clothing, and if they have on the stain on the clothing, if it's smaller than a dinar, askar min dinar, it's excused, yafu. But if it's bigger than the size of a dinar, then a person, they have to clean it. Okay? So that's what the sheikh said. So a small amount of urine or a small amount of the madhi, it's excused from the clothing, or a stain on the clothing, or a small amount, it's excused. But if it's a large amount, then the person, they have to clean it, they have to wash it out. And like the sheikh mentioned before, 3 times for the other impurities, and 7 times for the saliva of a dog and a pig. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so let's go to the next one, number 25. We did that one? Okay, inshallah. Dam? Yasiru dam. Okay, dam in Arabic means blood. Dam. And that's also excused. The dam, if the blood goes on the clothing, if it's a small amount, then it's excused. Just like the impurity and the muddy, it's excused. A small amount of dam, of blood, is also excused. If it goes on the clothing. And the Sheikh talks about later on also about and then the other thing is, when you have the dam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that in the Quran, حُرِمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمَ, the blood is forbidden for you. But as far as it being impure or not, is ikhtilaf in the ulama, especially the human blood. So you have that issue also, the ulama considered to be impure or not. But over here the Sheikh, he said that if you have a small amount of dam, small amount of blood on your clothing, then it's excused, and on your skin likewise it's excused. But if you have a large amount, then you have to cleanse it, just like in the other stains that we mentioned before. Okay, read number 26.
ما تولد منه من القيح والصديد ونحوه.
Yes. And likewise, he mentioned the dam, and also sometimes if a person, they get hurt, they have some other things that come out, the pus and other things that are discharges from it also. So the Sheikh, he said also, if there's a small amount of that comes out, then that's excused. Like for example, if a person, they have a pimple, for example, or zit, right? They pop that, there's a small amount that comes out, then that's excused, The yafu and other, because he is sadira. But if there's a large amount in a person, they have to cleanse it. So that's what he mentions. The dam and also the pus and other things that come out afterwards. If a small amount is there, then that's excused. You don't have to cleanse it. Okay, let's read number 27. Sabawa Yishreen.
وهو ما يبحث في النفس.
Okay, these things that we go by, what a person they have to clean, is what Allah says and what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. It's not people's particular feelings, Sometimes people, they feel some things are clean or not, so it's not based on that. It's based on what Allah says and what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. So that's the issue for it that you have. What's the case for it? But there are some things, sometimes there might be some things that a person they don't consider to be impure, then that's the issue that's mentioned there. So that's why he mentioned the pus and the blood and things like that, because people, they consider that to be vulgar and they consider that to be impure. So that's why he said to wash it out. Okay, inshallah, let's go to number 28. This is interesting. It's a nice concept. Good ilm.
ومني الدم
Adami.
الأدمي.
Yeah, mani al-adami, and that's the sperm, the semen of the human being. That's considered to be pure. Okay, it's not impure, the semen. And the reason for that is in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to have the money on the pants, and it would dry up, and he'd give it to Aisha. Aisha would just scratch it off, and he would wear it and pray the salat and everything. So it's considered to be pure. And the other thing is, if you think about ma khuliqal insan, what was a human being created from? They're created from the money. They have the fluid from the mother, the egg, and they have the semen from the father. So all the human beings are created from the money, from the semen. So if a person were to say that that's impure, then they're saying all the human beings are impure. Even Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was created from the money. So that's the reasoning that the Sheikh that he gave, that the money is pure. The tahir, laysa najas, the money. Okay, is that clear on that? Khuliqal insan, the human being is created from the money, from the semen, from the sperm. So therefore, the human being, that's the semen is pure. That's a ruling that the Sheikh has in the Hanbali school. All right, inshallah. So you got one more. Read the last one. Noe, you want to read that one?
The urine of animals whose meat is eaten is pure.
Yes. So that's a concept in the Hanbali school. You have the urine. The animals that you're allowed to eat, it's considered to be pure. Like for example, if you're allowed to eat sheep, then you have the urine of sheep that's allowed. Goat, that's allowed. Camel is allowed to eat. So the urine of camel is considered to be
Oh,
pure.
this is a good thing for Hindus. The Indians might be jumping with joy with them on this one.
The thing is, they're going to be in trouble for not obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even though that's the
You
case,
know, in India,
yes, inshallah.
they have the cow urine.
Yes, inshallah.
They pack it in a bottle
No,
and
no.
sell it.
Yes,
So
inshallah.
then, at fish called urine. What is it called? Urine, Sheikh?
Mm-hmm.
What is the urine in Arabic?
Bowl, they say.
بول بول من بقر. ايوه تعرف هذا في الهند.
Yes. You know, the thing is, when people they do the things, they have to do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they do it for idols, for shirk, it's not going to be accepted from them, and then in the akhirah they're going to be in big trouble. And sometimes people they make things up, they say particular anam is haram and things like that, and that's not appropriate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't give people the thing that the person they have to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not from the feelings of people, it's not the imagination of people. People have to follow the haqq, the reality from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what counts. Okay, inshallah, so you have the urine of animals that's allowed to eat. Those are considered to be pure. The animals that are haram to eat, like the pig, the urine is impure. So that's what the Shaykh said. And obviously, like when you slaughter the animal, right, and you eat the different parts of the animal, so, urine is inside of it, so, that's the case for it. Okay, inshallah, so let's stop over here. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, ashhadu wa la ilaha illa anta, astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayk. Wallahu ta'ala alam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Jazakumullah khair.